Hello and welcome everybody. This is Rashmi from Designhill and your host for the day. I am super glad to be here again with all of you. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already joined us in the previous session. So welcome back again. I hope you and your families are doing well and keeping safe. I would like to welcome you to this workshop wherein we are going to discuss about introduction to brush lettering. The event is brought to you by Designhill, which is the world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike to source high quality designs from professional designers. Also, through its print on demand marketplace called Print Shop by Designhill, you can buy 50 plus unique products with thousands of artwork created by the world class community of independent artists. Moving ahead, let me introduce our guest for today. We have Maricar. She started calligraphy in 2017 when she got exhausted from her job in telecommunication company and felt the need to have a hobby or creative outlet. She is a self-taught and honed her skills by watching video tutorials and online resources. With a growing passion towards the craft, she continued practicing and developing her skills. She tried different techniques like blending colors, bouncy lettering, and flourishing. So thank you so much, Mary, for joining us for this workshop. Glad to have you on board. Please go ahead and say a quick hi to the audience, and let's start the session.
Hi everyone, I am Maricar. I am the person behind Seven Brushes Strokes. So if you've been following me on Instagram, yes, it's the face behind that art account. So welcome to our workshop hosted by Designhill. I'm so thankful that they have invited me for this workshop and to meet you all. I think we have a lot of people watching around all over the world. So yeah, I hope that this will help you start your calligraphy journey, or even if you are already starting with your calligraphy or lettering, I hope that this will help you to build a solid foundation on how to properly learn calligraphy. Okay, so
Yes, yes. So we are equally excited to have you, Mary, and I'm sure this is gonna be a wonderful discussion and wonderful session. We have 120 people joining us for this workshop, which is so cool, and I'm sure that they are equally excited for the session. So before we move ahead, let's quickly look at what Print Shop by Designer is all about, and then we'll directly jump back to the session. All right, so that was about Print Shop by Designhill. Now let's get started with the session. Mary, you can connect your another device.
okay.
Yeah. And everyone, we will be taking questions during the session. So if you have any, kindly put them in the question section. Do not put them in the chat because it get usually misplaced within the chats. So put them there in the questions tab, and we will definitely take it up. Also, let us know where are you joining us from. I see a lot of people saying Philippines, Nepal, and other part of the world. So let us know.
So I hope you have your brush pen and paper with you. Okay. So can you see clearly my hands and my paper?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's start first with defining what is brush lettering and how it is different from cursive writing. So if you're a beginner in brush lettering, A myth that we often encounter is that if your handwriting is horrible, you cannot do calligraphy or brush lettering, which is false because everyone or anyone can learn brush lettering if they are really interested to learn it. So first of all, I will demonstrate what is cursive writing. So in cursive writing, we write fast and continuously. So if I'm going to write the word lettering, for example, so there, this is my handwriting or cursive writing. And as you can see, it doesn't really look nice or good. So yeah, even if your handwriting is terrible, you can learn calligraphy. Because in calligraphy, we break down each letters into series of basic strokes. So let's try writing again the word lettering. So if you can notice, I have an upstroke, and then I lift my pen. So I'll perform my letter L like this. Lift again. So that's my letter E. So I am writing really slowly. And I am breaking down each letters into a series of basic strokes. So for the letter G, we have an oval. And then this kind of basic stroke. Okay, and as you can see, we have also a thick stroke and thin stroke. So if we notice, all the downstrokes are thick. So remember that in calligraphy, every time that your pen is moving downward, it should be thick. And every time that your pen is moving upward, so like this one, it should be thin. So you need to practice that in calligraphy. And how do we hold our brush pen to create thin and thick strokes? So you want to hold your brush pen at an angle, so like 45 degrees. So I'm holding it like this. And it doesn't matter if you are comfortable gripping it like this or this. So that doesn't matter as long as you're holding it at an angle. So you don't want to hold it like this, an upright position, because this will ruin the tip of your brush pen every time that you will exert thick stroke. Okay, so when we hold our pen like this, we should apply heavy pressure. So don't be afraid to see that your pen is bending. As long as the tip of your brush pen is flexible, it is okay. It can handle that amount of pressure. So heavy downstroke. So this is our downstroke. And this should be thick. Okay, so now we are moving on to the basic stroke. So this is the first one that you want to practice so that you can be familiarized with your pen. And I want also to show you how it is different with large tip brush pen. So I have here a Tombow dual brush pen. So this is a large tip brush pen as compared to Pentel Food Touch brush pen. So if you can notice, so this is a small tip and this is a large tip brush pen. So when you are using a large tip brush pen, you want to expect that your downstrokes will be thicker. Like that. Okay. Because you are holding a large brush pen. And then when we want to create an upstroke, as usual, if we are using a small tip brush pen, we can create hairline upstroke or the very thin upstroke that we can create. So if you're a beginner, don't worry if you feel shaky and uncomfortable doing this stroke because that is just normal. It can be practiced, okay? So when you are doing an upstroke, you should be of light pressure only. So remember, upstroke is thin. So this is for the big brush pen. And of course, if you are using big brush pen, expect that your upstroke will also be thicker compared to the achievable upstroke that you can create with a small tip brush pen. So if I'm going to create upstroke here, it's going to be thicker. But this is my upstroke or this is my thin stroke with a large tip brush pen. So what happens if you will try doing this with large tip brush pen? So it's either become shaky like that or inconsistent because you are trying so hard to get that thin stroke similar to a small tip brush pen. So don't do that. For me, it's okay that I have this kind of thin stroke as long as I have a clear difference between my thin and thick stroke. So that's okay. And I think I have already answered a question from Navina. So she said, how to control the weights of a large tip brush pen. So here it is. Don't pressure yourself too much to create a very hairline upstroke. Okay? As long as you can see a difference between them, so that's okay. So this is your thick, and this is your thin. So that's the difference between small tip and large tip brush pen. Okay? So now we move on to another basic stroke. So I'm going to switch with my small tip brush pen. So I'm using again my small tip brush pen. This is Pentel Food Touch brush pen. It's one of my most favorite brush pens and I recommend this for beginners because it is easy to control. But if you are heavy-handed, you can also try Zebra Kunwari. So this is kind of hard tip brush pen. It's not as flexible as the Pentel Food, so you can give it a try if you're having difficulty with two flexible brush pens. Okay, so moving on to our next basic stroke. So we are down with downstroke, upstroke, and now we want to create an underturn stroke. So this is basically like a U shape, but you want to transition from thick stroke to thin stroke. So you will start with a heavy downstroke and then slowly transition, lift your pen, slowly transition to a thin upstroke. So you want to transition at this point so that you will have this kind of triangular shape. So don't do it like too early. So some of the students are transitioning too early, like they will come from a thick stroke and then transition too early like this. So you will notice that there is a broken line in here. And this is not what we want for our underturn stroke. So the technique is to slowly lift up the pressure. So take downstroke, slowly release the pressure, and maintain that thin stroke up to the top. So this is our underturn stroke. Okay, so now we move on to the overturn stroke. So this is basically a reverse of this underturn. So if we started from a thick downstroke with overturn, we want to start with a thin upstroke. So start with thin and then apply heavy pressure. So for some of my students, they find it easier because they will start from light pressure and then transition to a heavy pressure. So we start with the thin and then thick. So as you curve, you want to apply heavy pressure. And don't make it like you are applying heavy pressure too early, like this. So you are thin and then thick, like that. And then you are aiming for an edge. So this is not good. This is incorrect. So we don't want this. We want a smooth overturn. So this is our overturn stroke. Okay. So let me just check some of the questions. If it is a horizontal line, we should do a dark or a light stroke. So this is a question from Neil Bandari. So if it's a horizontal line, like the crossbar of the letter T, I do it with a thin stroke. So that's up to you, but you don't want to cross two thick lines. You can cross one thin and one thick, but don't cross two thick lines. So for example, here in my letter T, so you can see my crossbar here is thin. Because if we cross the horizontal line to be thick stroke also, so if I do with thick stroke, so it doesn't look good. So what I do for horizontal lines like crossbars of the letter T, I just do it thin. Okay? So next we have the compound curve. So compound curve is like a combination of the underturn and overturn stroke. So we start with upstroke, heavy pressure, and then release pressure again.
Mary,
Come back thin. Yes?
sorry to cut you off in between. I think few of the attendees are saying that the video is little bit blurred. So I think we'll have to sort of restrict our hand movements a lot, because I think it's gonna take a little bit of a time to focus on the content that we are writing. So yeah, and as of now, I just see that the screen is just stuck.
Yeah, yeah. Let me just check it. Hmm,
It was good earlier. Now
let
it's
me
little
refresh
bit
it.
for me. Oh, it's not there now.
Yeah,
Okay, let's reconnect.
I don't know what happened.
No
Okay,
worries.
I reconnect.
Yeah.
Let's answer first some of the questions.
Yeah, I see one question which is
Okay,
having
so
five upvotes. This is asked by Thea, and the question is, how long did it take you to master the skill? And I think a lot of people would want to know that how much time does it actually take for an artist to reach from a beginner to a pro? So how much time you took, and what advice and what tips would you like to give to beginners who are new in the creative industry?
yeah, so I started, okay. I started November 2017, and like every beginners, my first attempt of brush letterings are not good. They are all shaky, and don't even know what basic strokes are. But then seeing other Instagram artists pursuing calligraphy, it inspired me to pursue my own creative journey. And the key here is to keep on practicing and don't compare your progress to others, because if you do that, it's hard to move forward because you either will be intimidated or discouraged. So if you will focus on your own progress and your own growth, then you will progress, you will develop your own skills. And also, you can watch a lot of tutorials. There are a lot of tutorials from YouTube channel. I learned a lot from there, uh, from the videos there, and you can also download a lot of free workbooks online. So if one teacher doesn't work for you, then you can jump into the other and just try to discover what learning technique will really work for you.
Okay, and then I see this constant question. We got your question, Harini. So the question is how you set up your camera. So I think just she want to know how we are doing this proper setup, and how can we, like, how are we showing the pad and everything. So if you can quickly give a quick tip to them on how to set up a camera. Probably one of the reason could be that they would want to show their tutorial online by doing calligraphy and put it on Instagram and YouTube out there. So yeah, you can share some tips on that.
Yeah, okay, so I will just show you a quick demonstration of where my table is. So if you can see, this is my table, and I have here my tripod. So this is my setup, and I also have my ring light, so I can have enough lighting for my lettering. So, so there. This is my setup. This is where my tripod is standing, my notebook in here, and I will just put my cell phone here. So I hope this helps you in how to set up to film your calligraphy videos in the future.
Yeah. So that was the quick behind the scenes. So you need a tripod, you need a ring light and a good device to record the video. That's all.
Yes.
All right, let's begin with the session.
Let's continue. So we have our compound curve. So again, we start with the thin upstroke, and then you want to transition to a heavy downstroke, and then lift your pen to produce that thin stroke. So also remember to make all these three lines parallel with each other. We don't want to create like our upstroke is going this way, and then downstroke this way, and then your thin stroke again that way. So we don't want to create this kind of shape. Aim for parallel lines, and don't be frustrated if you feel like your transitions are not good enough. Practice is really the key to master calligraphy. So as long as you are practicing these basic strokes, you can later on break the rules to do bouncy lettering and flourishing, because all of the calligraphy styles fall into these basic strokes. Okay, so this is what we call the compound curve. Okay, so I'll just flip my notebook. Now we move on to the oval shape. So this is one of the most challenging basic strokes, especially for beginners. And even I, after some times of not holding my brush pen, I still find this difficult for me. So I want to start with a thin upstroke. So thin, and then transition to heavy downstroke, and then they will meet with a thin stroke again. So I did not start from the top. So I start somewhere here, like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So we start with the thin stroke. And then you want to slowly transition to a heavy downstroke. So if you're not comfortable doing it like this, you can also try starting from the top, but you want to make sure that they will meet nicely. So we start with a heavy pressure, downstroke, and then they will meet. So the reason why I don't do it like this is because sometimes it's hard to perfect the top of the oval. So as you can see here, I have this broken stroke like that. Unlike in here, they connected smoothly. So sometimes I can do it well. So you can also start with thin instead of full pressure downstroke right away. So you start with thin, transition to heavy pressure downstroke, and then meet. So you can also do this kind of oval shape. So this is our ovals. And then the next is the ascending stem loop. So this ascending stem loop can be used for the letters H, T, letter D, so letters like that. So we start with a loop, so thin stroke, continue with the loop, and then heavy downstroke. So as you can see, the size is doubled. So if you are using a grid line like what I'm using right now, the ovals here and the previous strokes that we did, they are just using 2 units of my grid paper. But now I am using 4 grids. So you want this ascending stem loop to be of higher size compared to the previous strokes that we did. Okay, so a question from Rani Mohinani. Is it necessary to practice on graph paper only? So it's not really required to practice in this kind of paper, but if you're just a beginner, if you're still a beginner, you want to practice with guidelines, and this will help you to build consistency of your letter forms, of your strokes. And you can also buy a dotted notebook or just print a guidelines where you can find it online. So it's not really required, but I recommend this for beginners to build that consistency. Okay, so we start again with thin and then transition to a heavy downstroke. So this is our ascending stem loop. So as you can see, my handwriting is not really that great. So it doesn't have connection with how you will do calligraphy. And the last of the basic strokes is the descending stem loop. So similar to this, we have a double height also. But this time we want to start with a heavy downstroke and then slowly transition to thin stroke, creating this kind of oval shape. So make sure that you are transitioning at the right spot. So similar to this one, we have that kind of triangular shape. And you don't want to extend your downstroke up to this line. So this is what we call the sender line. So you don't want to extend your downstroke up to this point, and then that's where you will continue with the thin stroke. So this is not correct. So you want to lift the pressure slowly. So right at this point. Okay, so lift from this point. So this is our descending spindle. Okay. So
All right.
before we
I think
move,
yes, I think these are some great tips here that Mary is sharing with us. Before we move forward, I would like to give a quick shout out to Design Hill. I'm so sorry for that. So I would like to give a quick shout out to Design Hill for organizing this session. Let's take a quick break and we'll jump back to the session.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on, and it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers. It's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out, and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right. So time to take some questions, Mary. If it would be great if you can see the list of questions. I see a lot of questions out there. So let's answer some of them and then we'll continue with the session.
yes, yes. So I see here from Panji Sundani, how if the technique used by or applied by a normal pen. So this is what we call the faux calligraphy. So this is how it is spelled. So faux calligraphy. So this is the fake calligraphy. And we call it like this because we are imitating the thin and thick strokes. So like this one, it's just a regular pen. It's not a brush pen or a pointed pen. So it cannot create thin and thick strokes with just a change of pressure. So for example, this is my letter A. So I have my oval shape and then an underturn stroke. And I want to imitate the thin and thick strokes. So I have my oval shape.
Mary, can you hear us? The screen is frozen. Okay, I think some internet glitches here. No worries, guys. She'll be back. In the meantime, I see a lot of questions. A lot of people are asking whether the recording would be available. Yes, it would be available. As once the session is over, you will receive the recording in your emails. Okay, let me try to connect to her again. All right, she'll join us back.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Don't know what is happening. Okay, so we can continue now. So similar to calligraphy or brush calligraphy, you want to make sure that every time your pen is moving in a downward direction, you want to thicken that part. So for example, here on the oval shape, this is where our pen moved in a downward direction. So I'm just going to thicken this or add thick strokes manually. And then as we observe here on our underturn stroke, we are going downward here and upward in here. So I'm just going to imitate that one. And since this side is where the pen moved downward, so I'll just go ahead and thicken this part. Okay, so yeah, that's how you do faux calligraphy or calligraphy using just a normal pen. So do we still have other questions?
Yeah, I think there
Uh,
are a few more. So Koina has asked us where can you find free workbooks?
my workbooks?
So she wanna know where can they find free workbooks if they are available on internet.
Yeah, so when I was just starting out, I just searched for brush calligraphy and then every search results will give you some of blogs or websites, and that will lead you to some of free worksheets. But some of these worksheets that I get are just the basic strokes, and these are really not the full workbook. Okay, because of course those teachers will sell those workbooks and they will just give some free to practice on.
Okay, so now let's continue with the session and then we can take more session in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So, like what we have discussed earlier, so I think I saw one question here, how to use Crayola Super Tips. So let's just try using this to demonstrate some word. For example, we want to write the word kind. So we are now going to connect these basic strokes into words. For example, I have an upstroke. So I'm using the tip of this Crayola Super Tips to create my thin stroke. And then I'm going to use my ascending stem loop. So I'll have my thin and thick stroke. So I'm just exerting heavy pressure so that I can create this thick line. And then for the letter K, I have this kind of loop. So I'm lifting my pen every after stroke. So that's my K. And now lift your pen. Then we have our letter I. So this is the underturn stroke that we did earlier. Then we have a downstroke. Lift the pen. And then the compound curve. And then we have our oval shape. So lift again the pen. And then this again, the ascending stem loop. But this time we'll turn it, the end point, into an underturn stroke. So ascending stem loop that will turn into an underturn stroke. So that's how you would do calligraphy or brush lettering, stroke by stroke. Don't forget to lift the pen, Don't forget the thin and thick strokes. And of course, don't forget your basic strokes. Okay, so can move on to other questions.
Yeah, let's check it out. So I think a lot of questions, I see a lot of questions here, which is basically about, I have a question where Sneha is asking, what do you do after learning calligraphy? Then Bhagwan is asking, what is the significance of calligraphy beside lettering? So I think the crux or the point of asking these questions, Mary, is to understand how to sort of, go about monetizing this skill. So now that people, let's say people are aware of lettering, people know how to do calligraphy, what should be the next step for them to sort of monetize it or to make money out of it? So what are the few ways that you can suggest to them?
Yeah, okay. So after learning this craft or this skill, so this is basically a passion or a hobby for some, but for me, this has become my passion. And by sharing mini tutorials on my Instagram, I finally discovered that teaching calligraphy is my top passion above doing calligraphy and collecting pens, okay? So how you can monetize for this kind of stuff or this craft, number one, like what I am doing online workshop or online courses. So that is if you are interested in teaching or sharing your passion. So that's how it's working for me right now. And number two, you can do wedding invitations or design mugs or t-shirts. So you can definitely sell your designs. So of course, when you are doing calligraphy, you are doing layout. You can sell framed artworks like that. And also you can do your own workbook. So that is another thing that you can monetize your calligraphy skills. You can sell your workbooks online, or you can set up your own YouTube channel. And of course, we know that YouTube can be monetized. So there, if you are really into teaching and sharing and you want filming videos, editing videos, then definitely you want to try YouTube channel.
Great. I just want to add one more point here. So, as you know, Print Shop by Designhill is organizing this workshop. It's again a platform for artists like yourself to sell your artwork online. So, if you're a calligraphy artist or any digital artist for that matter, and you create digital artwork, so you can, upload your design on Print Shop, and you can sell your merchandise with that design, and you can get the your commission on that. So that's another way to monetize on your skill, and apart from what Mary has already shared.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see a lot of Instagram artists doing commissions, selling their artwork. So if you are like that type of artist, then definitely put yourself out there. That's how it is important. That's why it is really important to create your own art account, because I understand that as an artist, it is really hard to. Am I still connected?
Yes, 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 you are. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So as an artist, it's really hard to put our artworks out there, especially if we see a lot of great artists. But don't be discouraged. I will repeat that to you. Don't be discouraged, because every artist or everyone was once a beginner. So we all started somewhere, and you just have to put yourself out there, and you don't know, someone will notice your work and maybe invite you to a workshop like this and be exposed to a more of people.
I can't agree more. I tell you guys, Mary has 84,000 followers on Instagram, and when we saw her work, we were like literally very impressed. And then, that's the way we reached out to her to do this, workshop for you guys. So, Mary, so as you have a huge following on Instagram, would you also like to share quick tips with everyone here about, how to get started on Instagram? How is it useful? And, how can they probably build their own brand on Instagram, and how can they find work from there? So I'm sure you would have a huge experience of building a community on Instagram. Would you like to throw some light on and give some tips to the community here?
Yeah, okay. So, like everyone else, I started with 0 followers. And it's really hard to gain followers, especially now that Instagram algorithm is changing every day. It's hard to be on the explore page and be seen by thousands of Instagram users. But I want to make sure that you are using proper hashtags, especially for us calligraphers. So you can check Instagram, search for hashtags like calligraphy, modern calligraphy, lettering, brush pen. So every hashtag that is related to our craft. So you want to add that on your post. Okay. And then number two, if you can turn your Instagram account into a business account, because if you are a business account already, don't worry, there is no payment here. You just want to convert your personal account into a business account because the insights there will really help you to check upon when is your audience online and what posts are your top performing. So you can definitely analyze which posts are most liked by your audience and like that. And don't forget to engage with the community. So the more that you engage with the community, the more that you are including yourself in our lettering community, in our art community. And that is how you will be discovered. Support other artists and leave a genuine comment. So don't do follow for follow. I was guilty of that when I was just starting out. I did follow for follow, but then I realized that it's not worth it because when I followed someone and then they followed back, they will definitely unfollow. So that's not the kind of audience that you want. You want to build your own community, genuine community. So be genuine also when giving comments, when giving likes or hearts. So something like that.
I think that's a great tip here. So, as an artist, you definitely have to put yourself out there. Instagram is a great platform for artists to show your work and build your own portfolio. So, you have to be consistent enough on Instagram. You have to use right hashtag. You have to engage with the community constantly, and that's how brands will connect with you once you have a decent following. I see similar question there in the question tab that how brands connect to you. So when you put your work constantly out there, they find you in the explore page, they find you through hashtag. So make sure that you are using the right ones, and you will definitely find a lot of work on Instagram. So Mary, moving ahead to the next question, I see there are upvotes. There are 9 upvotes in the question by Preeti, and the question is how to choose good brush pen. Can we do calligraphy with watercolor brushes?
Yeah, definitely. So I have here, for example, this is Princeton size number 2. So when you are doing watercolor lettering or paintbrush lettering, definitely it's harder to control than a normal brush pen because it's like bristles or hair. Unlike the tip of the brush pen, it's felt tip, so it's not breaking or when you exert heavy pressure, they are intact. Unlike when you exert heavy pressure with this kind of paintbrush. So of course, if it's wet, there is a tendency that the bristles are coming out like that. So it's definitely harder to control, but you can definitely still use this paintbrush for lettering.
Okay, and the next question is by Krati. This question again has 7 upvotes, and the questions is basically about which pens are you using. So if you can quickly tell them the different sort of pens that you use for calligraphy, that would be great.
So yeah, I have a lot of pens here, but definitely my number one favorite is the Pentel Food Touch Brush Pen. So I will be starting with my small tip collection. So this is the Zebra Funwari, and another for a small tip is the Tombow small tip. Okay, so this one. Tombow Fudenosuke. So this is a hard tip brush pen. You can also try this if you are having difficulty controlling flexible brush pens. Another one that I have here is the Pilot Petit. So these are all the small tip brush pens. So for medium-sized brush pens, I have here my Zig Fudibayori or Kuretake. So this is a medium-sized brush pen. And you can, of course, you can start with Tombow Dual Brush Pen. So this is also good for beginners. But when I was starting out, I didn't use this because it's expensive. And this kind of brush pen requires a smooth quality paper. So you don't want to ruin this. Remember that our brush pens are delicate or sensitive to the kind of paper that we are using. So if you are using them on a rough textured paper, then it definitely will ruin your brush pen. So you can also practice with Faber-Castell. So this is again a large tip brush pen. And of course, the people's dream marker. So this is the Karin. So this is also a bit expensive compared to Tombow, but I think this is more durable than Tombow because the tip is nylon, durable, and I have been using this for watercolor paper, and the tip is still good. So if you're on a budget, you can always choose Crayola Super Tips. So yeah.
All right. So these were the the types of pen that Mary is using right now. All right. So let's move ahead with the next question. Before we do that, just a quick announcement that we have 5 more minutes to wrap up this session. And although we would love to answer as many questions as we can, but we have limited time. So you can DM Mary post this session if any of your questions are unanswered, and I'm sure she would love to help you. So Mary, we have this question, which is basically, and it has got 8 upvotes. So which is basically about how to mix two colors in one lettering writing.
Okay, so the easiest way to blend colors, for example, I have my Pentel Food and this one. So the easiest way to blend colors is just by doing it like this. So you want to make sure that you have one light color and one dark color. So it's like transferring color at the tip of your brush pen. So you don't have to worry doing this because as long as your brush pen is water-based, then it will definitely go back to its original color. And then once you have already transferred some ink on the lighter color that you choose, so you can now start lettering. So it's not quite visible here. So this creates like an ombre effect. So let's try with the green or maybe pink and this blue. So I will transfer the ink of my blue on my pink. So like this. And then let's try again. So as you can see, it has created a blended effect. And it's the easiest way to blend colors.
That's a cool tip here. I love this one. Okay. Okay. So Simran has this question, which is about flourishing. So which tip brush pen are mostly preferred when you do flourishing?
Yeah, so for flourishing, I prefer a small tip brush pen because it requires a lot of arm movement. And when I am using large tip brush pens, sometimes I lost my muscle memory, and then I just kept on adding pressure. So when flourishing, you want to make sure that you are not crossing two thick lines. For example, I'm just going to flourish letter N. So I'll do it here. So let's flourish letter N. So it's easier to control because it requires a lot of arm movement. So as you can see, we want to make sure that our arm is moving, especially if our flourishes is getting bigger. But if I am using large tip brush pen, of course we can still do flourishing, but for me, I find it hard. So it requires a lot of control on the brush pen, but you can definitely still use that. But for beginners, I recommend using either pencil just to build your muscle memory on the drills and start with a small tip brush pen.
Okay, and we have a follow-up question on that, which is basically about can you also talk about some basic rules of flourishing that and the mistakes that people should avoid?
Okay, so for flourishing, the number one tip that I want to give is you want to make sure that you are not crossing two thick lines. So as you can see here, I'm either crossing two thin lines or one thin and one thick, but don't cross two thick lines. So for example, I will create this again, crossing two thick lines. So like that. As you can see, the area here looks like a little heavy as compared to this one. So this one looks more elegant than this. And also practice your drills and your arm movement.
All right. So, guys, we are short on time here, and we will take one last question. So, Mary, would you like to share a quick tip with everyone who want to start in brush lettering, or who have already started? So, your last piece of advice for them, please.
Yes. So, okay, you want to start with the right tool. So, you want your brush pen to be flexible. It will take time for you to discover which pen will work for you. Some beginners are find it hard to control the large tip brush pens. Some would be more comfortable with starting with the small tip brush pen. So, take some time to buy some brush pens because definitely if you are starting with calligraphy, you're also being addicted to collecting brush pens. So that's what happened to me. But you don't want to collect and collect. You just want to explore with different kind of brush pens. If a small tip brush pen doesn't work for you, then try a hard tip brush pen or a large tip brush pen. And then you want to make sure that your paper that you are using is smooth quality paper. So Rhodia.pad is good for beginners, but I find that a little bit expensive. So what I'm using here is a Veco paper. So this is a local brand in the Philippines, but you can definitely look for some alternative that is available on your area. Okay, and then don't forget to practice the basic strokes because as a calligrapher, we want to start right away in writing words, in writing letters, in doing layout, and we miss the number one step, which is the basic stroke. So practice those drills, especially if you are having a new brush pen or a new material. So you want to keep on practicing the basic strokes. And yeah, I will take this opportunity also to promote my classes on Skillshare. So yeah, if you know I am teaching on Skillshare, I have 4 classes there on calligraphy. And I have also my newest watercolor class. So you can avail 2 months of premium subscription for free if you will sign up through my link, and that free trial of 2 months will expire on September 30. After that, the 2 months will become 14 days only. So if you are interested to learn more and have more comprehensive tutorials and classes, you can you can check my Skillshare classes. So you can search for me, Seven Brushes Strokes.
All right. So, guys, if you want to learn more, do check her courses out and follow her on Instagram. She keeps on sharing some amazing resources and amazing tips on Instagram as well. So, and if you have not taken the picture of this session yet, do take a picture of this session. Tag Print Shop by Designhill on your story, and tag Seven Brush Strokes, which is the Instagram handle for Maricar. Tag her as well in your stories, and we would love to reshare that. On
Yes.
that note, okay, let me just. All right. So on that note, I would like to, thank you everyone for joining the session. This was indeed a value-packed session. Although there is a lot more that we could have discussed and covered in this workshop, but we are limited by time here. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. Once again, thank you so much, Mary, for taking out your time and joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much too for inviting me. I really enjoyed this workshop, and to all who have attended, thank you so much for participating.
All right, guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is on penmanship with pencil. So if you're interested, you can visit designhill.com/events and you can register for that event as well. The link of our events page will be in the chat. If you want to stay updated with events like this, do subscribe to the events newsletter. Again, that is also in the events page. You can put your email ID there and you can subscribe, and you will receive weekly events newsletter from us. Also, if you want to watch the recording of this workshop and the previous workshop that we have had, you can check out our YouTube channel. You will find all the recordings there. The link will be in the chat soon. And last but not the least, we have recently launched a DIY creative tool which is called Designhill Studio, which will empower everyone, to unleash the creative talent within themselves. Be it a designer or non-designer, everyone can create beautiful collaterals, presentation, and social media posts from Designhill Studio. So check that out as well on by going to designhill.com/studio. On that note, I would like to say goodbye to everyone and thank you so much once again for joining us. It was a pleasure having you. Stay connected, stay tuned, and we will be back again with such webinars in future. Thank you so much. Take care and good night.
Thank you. Good night. Bye, everyone.